10 simple ways to create a positive mental diet. So we talked last time about the importance of a positive mental diet. If you didn't catch that episode, it's really valuable and worth going back to understand that this isn't just about something about feeling good for a minute or having a positive state of mind for a few minutes here or there. This has an actual quantifiable, real impact on our businesses and on our abilities as entrepreneurs. And so it's super important to understand why we want to have a positive mental diet. And then obviously we need the tools, we need the steps, we need to know what we can do in order to be able to create that so we can live in that moment and be in that sort of state as often as possible, because that is going to put us in the most powerful place where we're going to have the most impact and be at our best so we can get the greatest results that we're set out to achieve. So the bottom line here is that we all have stress. We all have fears, we all have anxiety. And there are obviously times when we don't feel our best. And if we have sort of a traditional job, or if we're in a normal situation, that may or may not matter. But if we are an entrepreneur, if we're a business owner, if we are the breadwinner and we're somebody who relies on our business, it's not just a hobby or something we do for fun, but it's something that's vital to our well-being and our financial stability, then it's really important that we don't have too many off days, because the paycheck doesn't keep coming in. If we're not able to get done the work we need to get done, then unfortunately our results suffer. And if our results suffer, so does our ability to generate the revenue and the income that we need. So in order to be able to function at our highest level, we have to understand that as human beings, we're all going to have those moments. We're all going to have those emotions. And that's totally normal. It's totally natural. And it's expected. At the same time, we have to be able to find ways to be able to manufacture a higher level of thinking and a more powerful state, because we need to be able to operate that way as often as possible. So in order to be able to create and maintain a positive, empowered mental state, let's talk about some actual tactics and things that we can do to actually consciously create that. So there will be days where we wake up and it's not even a challenge. We feel great normally. There's no reason that we need anything extra, whatever, and that's great. But there are going to be days where it's a struggle, where it's a lot harder. And if we let that defeat us and we let that bring us down, then unfortunately what happens is it becomes a vicious cycle. Then we get to the end of the day, we haven't done enough, so we don't feel great about that. And that leads us into tomorrow not feeling good either. If instead we find a way to soldier on through it and actually break through and come out the other side having a great day after the day started off as sort of blah or we didn't feel good, that's really empowering. That in and of itself gives us enhanced motivation the next day, because look what we were able to do. We were able to turn a day into one where all we wanted to really do is sit on the couch and watch reruns, into a day where we actually accomplished a lot. We were positive, we were productive, and super powerful. And that just creates an even more, overwhelming feeling of empowerment and ability to get things done. So one of the things that we can do is we can, in terms of to embrace a positive mental diet, it's important to note also that, this is going to take consistent effort, right, and intentional practice. So there are going to be times where even though we have a routine, even though we have things that we're working on, it won't automatically kick in right away. It's going to take some reminders. It's going to take some bumps in the road. We're still going to have down days. We're going to have days where it's harder. But the more often that we practice these things, the more subconscious it becomes, and the more our natural needle, our natural state, trends more toward the positive and empowered, as opposed to the negative or sort of energyless. And so here are some strategies that we can use to actually cultivate a positive mindset. And the more we use them, the more powerful they become. And the more, again, our general state becomes more positive and empowered anyway. The first one is practicing gratitude. As simple as this is, I have to say, I've actually felt profound benefits from this. I was not really a believer in this. I didn't really understand how this could have any sort of impact at all. And particularly in times where I wasn't really feeling very grateful about things, to be able to stop and think about, particularly starting each day, but at any day, any time that we're feeling low, think about things that we can be grateful for. Believe it or not, every one of us in our lives has things, big and small, that we can actually feel grateful for. And when we stop and we think about them and internalize them and get to a place of emotion where we actually let the feeling wash over us, it has a visceral effect. It absolutely changes our mindset. And it's been proven, they've done lots of different studies on this. And in both our personal lives and our professional lives, the power of this is really profound. Because what it does is it creates an entire mental shift. So when we reflect on what we're thankful for, we can shift our focus away from the challenges and toward the positive aspects of our life and our business. You know, our minds can only occupy one thought at a time, or one feeling at a time. And so if we allow whatever impetus or whatever sort of impulse or stimulus we get from our environment to control that, then if we see a bad news story or we hear something negative, it's likely to sort of pervade our consciousness and make us feel crummy. And if instead we deliberately and consciously decide to think about the things and really feel the gratitude of being grateful for the things that are good in our lives, it has the opposite effect. It pushes away all that negativity, and it puts us in a place where we feel empowered, we feel better, and because of that, we're able to operate at a higher level. And it just makes the entire world seem more optimistic, positive, happy, and fulfilling. And so that's, the amazing thing about this is we can only be in one place at one time mentally. And so it's super important to have that be a positive place. Another thing that we could do is mindfulness and meditation. So for some people, they swear by this. If we just recognize and be present in the moment, we can take time out. It can be 5 minutes sitting at our own desk looking out the window. It can be a quick walk around, the neighborhood outside or the park or the office building or whatever. But if we just get out and instead of thinking about all the stuff that needs to be done and all the tasks and responsibilities, if instead we just are present and aware of what is going on. So our minds are actively engaged with the beauty of the world, and we recognize little things that we wouldn't have even noticed normally because of the fact that we're usually so busy focused on what's next instead of just being in the moment, understanding it and appreciating it. There's something really powerful and simple about that whole concept as well. And it's almost eerie to even try to explain it. But once we practice it, even if we feel sort of corny about doing it, it's amazing the effect that it has. A walk in nature, and again, these are things that they've linked these things all to science. So they've done studies on this. And one of the things, in the Netherlands and those countries that are sort of the Norse countries, Finland and the countries up there, Denmark, the fascinating thing about it is that their happiness ratings are among the highest in the world. And there's a number of reasons for that. But interestingly, they're relatively cold climates. So it isn't because it's always beautiful. It's not a tropical paradise. But when you ask people, and when they've asked people, what is it about it that makes you happy? One of the things that comes up over and over and over again is they have an emphasis on a connection to nature. They always want to be outside. They want to be involved and engaged with the world and not locked in their rooms behind computer screens all the time. And I think that's really, really important and valuable. If we add that to our daily routine, and it only needs to be a few minutes, but it could be meditation, it could be deep breathing exercises where we just clear our mind, or maybe just moments to be fully present, recognize and appreciate everything that's around us. That scientifically has been proven to reduce stress, increase self-awareness, and promote a positive outlook. So it's another thing that we can do that's really, really powerful. A third thing that we can do is positive affirmations. So, depending on how you feel about this, some people think it's sort of, you know, doesn't really make sense. What is that? Like saying positive things to myself. But again, we're always talking to ourselves. And so the question is, what is your inner monologue? Are you constantly telling yourself good things and building yourself up? Or are you constantly focusing on the things that are negative and the problems and sort of beating yourself up? Because those are two completely different, ends of the spectrum, but they're equally important and, by the way, equally impactful. If we're constantly beating on ourselves and constantly downgrading our performance and minimizing our accomplishments and pushing ourselves to always be more and more and more and never appreciating anything, it's going to be hard to be positive. It's going to be hard to enjoy anything in terms of the process of life and the process of our routine. If, on the other hand, we're building ourselves up and we're recognizing the accomplishments and the positive things we've done and how good we are as a person and the value that we have intrinsically just for being who we are, that is also really empowering, and it actually builds up our confidence and our self-esteem to be able to do more and attempt more. And we know that we are going to take larger risks and we're going to do more and try to accomplish more when we feel good and confident about it. When we feel sort of like things aren't going well, those are the times we're going to pull back and we aren't going to take the risks. We aren't going to meet the challenges where we need to meet them. And we aren't going to have the energy and the wherewithal to be able to work through problems as they come up. So positive affirmations help reframe negative thoughts and beliefs. And these need to be very personal. So you can look these up online and you can find a bunch, but it's super important that you actually tailor them to your specific situation to the point that when it's a good one. When you say it to yourself, you're looking in the mirror and you get a visceral feeling, you get goosebumps, or you get some sort of emotional response. That's how you know you've got one that works for you. If they're just hollow sayings that you repeat over and over again, it's better than nothing. But you want to keep working on this. And by the way, this can be an evolving list. It doesn't A, need to be the same list all the time, and B, you can constantly change, adapt, and modify the ones you have, discard ones that aren't good, add new ones. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you have a short list of these that you can use anytime and every time to start a day, when you're feeling down, anytime you need to pick me up. All of those things are really powerful because they help us envision our goals, focus on our strengths, appreciate who we are and what we've accomplished, and build ourselves up. If you've ever been in a situation where you played a sport, or you've been in an office environment, or any sort of team environment, and you've had a boss, or you've had a teammate, or you've had a colleague compliment you on something, or tell you what a good job you did with something, or praise you about something, and that makes you feel good. It sort of washes warm all over your body. It's the same idea. We're just doing it for ourselves. We're manufacturing it for ourselves because it's super important. It's very easy to be negative and down on ourselves all the time. The world is a very competitive place. And since the dawn of the digital age, it's become more and more transparently competitive. There were always people that had more than what we had. We just didn't always see them. Now they're in our face constantly. Anywhere and everywhere you look, someone's having a party, someone's living their best life, someone's got what we want, someone's doing anything and has everything that we could ever hope to have. It's very hard in that context to not feel depressed. And it's why, by the way, the cell phone generation is a generation that's riddled with anxiety and depression, because all they see around them is the party that's going on 24 hours a day that they're not involved in. And so it becomes a popularity contest for artificial things to try to build ourselves up. When I was in college, there were parties going on every night of the week too, but I just didn't always know about them. I knew about the ones with my friends, and then I chose the times I needed to work and chose the times I could relax and party. Now, even when you're studying, you'd be looking down at your phone and seeing everybody having a good time, and you feel like you're missing out. So it is a very, very challenging. So the importance of being able to have affirmations that we can use on ourselves is even more important than it's ever been in the history of the world. We also want to surround ourselves with positivity. We all know those people in our lives that for one reason or another, we have a particular sort of feeling toward. Some are really positive. You're with somebody, and no matter what, you always seem to have a good time. They always make you feel good about who you are. You're happy about being around them, being with them. And then we all know the person too that you can't help but within a few minutes of being involved or around them, all of a sudden you start to feel crummy. They're bragging about all the stuff they've got or what they want to do. They're competing with you all the time, trying to be better. And we all know those kinds of people. We don't always have control over our entire environment, but to the extent that we do, we want to surround ourselves with supportive and optimistic people and things that uplift and encourage us. So we want to tune out and get rid of anything that's negative or disturbing to us. And this could even be like things like the TV, turning the TV off, throwing the newspaper out, don't even read it, turn off the internet like news channels and all of that kind of stuff. And to the extent that we can, engage more and feed the relationships that feed us, and pull back to the extent that we can from the relationships that drain us. If we limit our exposure to negative influences, and again, it's not all people, it could be news, it could be toxic relationships, it could be self-doubt, anything and everything that makes us feel bad about ourselves, we want to try to limit. Anything and everything that makes us feel good about ourselves, we want to expand on. One of the things that I notice that's a really interesting phenomenon is anytime somebody passes away, that was somebody that people had a positive relationship with. One of the things I hear all the time is, sadly, Bill Walton just passed away, the NBA Hall of Famer and UCLA superstar basketball player. And to all accounts, he was exactly as he appeared. I obviously didn't know him personally, but from every account I've ever heard, he was larger than life, always wanted everybody around him to feel good about themselves, always lifting everybody up around him, and defocusing on himself, laughing at himself and at other people, but always focusing on making sure everybody else was having a great time and feeling good about themselves. And that's a hallmark of a great life lived and a great person, because irrespective of all of his accolades and accomplishments in his profession, he left the world a better place because of who he was. And every story that pours in says exactly the same thing. So, that's not a bad legacy to leave. And another thing that we want to do is we want to focus on solutions and not problems. Now, our mind generally will tend to gravitate toward one or the other. The nice thing, or the fortunate thing for most entrepreneurs, is we generally tend to be solutions people because we're bombarded with problems. So in general, we're probably not going to be entrepreneurs if we're problem focused, but maybe. And so we need to know our own mind, and we need to know what pops up to us. When we see something, do we think, what's the way around this? Or do we think, oh, another problem? Those are the things that we need to figure out among ourselves and our own mindset. And then we need to figure out how we can, instead of dwelling on the problem and setback, shift our focus to always instantly make it a reaction that we automatically, like stimulus response. As soon as we see a problem, we immediately go toward, how do we fix this? How do we solve this? How do we break this obstacle? And we can condition ourselves to do that. And when we do, it reframes the entire idea of a problem. We no longer look at them as this issue that, this is going to stop us from getting, we just look at it as another step in the process. And so we want to shift our focus toward finding solutions and learning lessons from it. So we approach challenges with a problem-solving mindset and view obstacles as opportunities for growth. When we do that, we actually flip it from a negative to a positive, and we understand that every single time that we overcome something, it makes us stronger. It makes us better. It makes us better entrepreneurs. We want to celebrate small wins. We want to acknowledge and celebrate our achievements. As entrepreneurs, we're terrible at this. We often overlook every little thing that we ever do because there's always another rung we need to climb to next. It's really important, vitally important, to celebrate our achievements and recognize what we've accomplished, no matter how small it is. Any progress, even incremental, boosts morale and reinforces a positive mindset. If we knew we were able to get from step A to step B, even though we want to go to step Z, look, that's progress. Now let's go from B to C. But if we recognize that and reward it, we increase our own belief in ourselves because we show ourselves that we can do it. We've done it. We want to prioritize self-care. This is another thing that entrepreneurs are notoriously bad at. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I don't, just grab whatever's like fast to eat. I don't have time. We have to prioritize self-care activities that nourish our body, mind, and soul. So we need good food. It's fine to grab a burger now and then and fast food. That's normal. But we also need to be able to focus on eating healthy food as much as we can. We need to build that into our routine. We need to have time for our mind. We need things where we can unplug and recharge. Do things that are just for us. Whatever activities we enjoy, whether it's exercise, a hobby, spending time with friends, or just taking breaks to recharge. Super important to be able to do that. Working like a workaholic constantly 24 hours a day doesn't make you tough. It makes you stupid, because ultimately what happens is you break down. So we want to make sure that we're being smart about the way that we're doing it and that we're taking care of our business's most important asset, ourselves as the entrepreneur. We want to embrace continuous learning and growth. That mindset in and of itself, when we do that, have a growth mindset. We view failures as setbacks and as learning opportunities as opposed to problems. We stay curious, seek feedback, always want to improve and get better. Invest in our personal and professional development. Once we get going on the hamster wheel of business, oftentimes we feel as though we're supposed to have all the answers, but we never reinvest in ourselves. There's an important value in doing that because our businesses can only thrive to the extent that we do personally. So we need to become the best versions of ourselves to make our businesses the best versions of themselves. And we want to visualize success. Above and beyond just affirmations, literally think, view yourself, get in the moment, close your eyes, think about it, breathe it in, actually experience what it would feel like to be in that situation where we've reached the goal, we've got to the mountaintop, we've knocked down that target, whatever it is. It helps reinforce positive beliefs, it increases our motivation, it keeps us focused on the vision, and it actually tells our internal subconscious, look, we're not where we're supposed to be. We're here, we're supposed to be here, and it will automatically make us kick into gear and get going. And we want to maintain perspective. At the end of the day, it's really important not to, magnify wins and losses, snapshots in time, successes and failures too big and make them too grand. The fact is we have to keep things in perspective and remind ourselves always of the bigger picture. Entrepreneurship is a journey with ups and downs. Setbacks are temporary. We have to stay resilient, trust in our abilities to overcome challenges, and enjoy the process. If we enjoy the process instead of always focusing on a result, the target won't always be moving, right? The target always moves when we're focused on the end. When we're focused on the process and enjoying it and being as good as we can be at it, it in and of itself is the reward. All the rest of it will come automatically. So by incorporating these practices into our daily routine, we can gradually shift toward a more positive mental diet, empowering ourselves to navigate the entrepreneurial journey with optimism and resilience. So the takeaway here is that realizing the importance of a positive mental diet is valuable, but nothing changes until we actually implement it. Some methods may resonate better with us than others. There is no right or wrong. It's just a matter of picking the things that allow us to create and maintain a positive, empowered, optimistic state of mind as much as possible. Because doing that goes beyond just feel-good moments, and it actually enables us to achieve at a higher level.